Hello traders, welcome to your fundamental market update for Monday the 2nd of March 2015. So it's the first trading day of the month. That means that we can look forward to all the monthly data starting again. And we have a fair bit coming up this week. So today I think I'll do a review of the entire week on the major news that we've got coming up. But before I do, the market on Friday, I sent out a tweet just before the close, or just before I finished trading the New York session. And the US dollar strength kicked back in, and you can tell by the price action on the open of Monday that theme has continued through into today's Sydney session and Asian session. As we lead now into the European session, I think that theme will continue. However, we do have some gaps between the price of the close on Friday and the open of this morning. So on the weekend, the market slipped a little bit. And we could possibly see today or tomorrow at some point those gaps closing before we see the US dollar trend continue. I'll talk more about that in the technical video, but for today let's get into the data that we've got coming up, because we do have a fair bit this week and the market is going to focus a lot on these points of data coming out. So initially in the European session we have some tier 2 pound data. Nothing great is expected here. Expected all to be quite flat. I don't see any potential for surprises there. And then we have some consumer price index coming out for Europe. Once again, the market will be focused on this. The market will only react to this data if we get a big variance away from the consensus. So the consensus, as you can see, is the same as last month, and nobody's expecting anything great. Now, the unemployment rate in the Eurozone as a whole is expected to be flat, but once again, if that changes, we will see the market react accordingly. So if it gets worse, we will see some euro selling kick straight back in. Okay, so following that into the US session, we do have ISM manufacturing PMI. The market will be definitely focused on that, and that could actually boost some support for the US dollar if it comes in strong. We also have some personal income and bits and pieces coming out. The market will take note of those, but we'll look at some key data for tonight. So that's what we've got coming up. I think the US dollar strength story is back into play, and the market's jumped back on that bandwagon. So as a result, we're going to be focusing on some US data this week, and then also looking for any other data that will support a change in that US dollar strength. Otherwise, all of our trades are going to have to be associated around positioning long with the US dollar. And we'll just keep an eye on fundamentals to make sure that that story remains intact. If we have a look at the Tuesday, we have a very important RBA rate decision coming out. Now, the consensus it says here is 2%, but I believe that a lot of people are starting to sway back towards 2.25. I'll be doing some more research on that, and I'll be talking about that in detail tomorrow. But I think that it's a very important rate decision. I think it's one that the market could possibly see it on hold. But if we do get a rate cut, the Australian dollar will instantly come under selling. It will be the market's initial reaction. As I mentioned during the week, the price is currently trading at just a little bit lower, not much, only 20 pips or 40 pips, something like that, below the last month's interest rate decision where they chose to cut. So we haven't even moved in price action, yet the economy is getting worse, unemployment rose and things like that. So the price action has been a little bit irrational in alignment with the fundamentals, and at some point that needs to come back into alignment. And this interest rate decision could initiate that. And if we do get a cut, the market will be somewhat surprised, because the Canadian government come out, and it's a commodity currency, and said that they're not going to, they've stamped out an interest rate cut for this month of March. And that means that the market has also suggested that the New Zealand and the Australian will also put it on hold. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Technically, the story is different. I'll talk about that in the technical video, but this is a very important rate decision. Keep an eye on it. If we get a cut, great way to make money was just to be to short it, take a few pips, 20, whatever, and get out. That's the easy money. And depending on the RBA statement, if they really talk down the Australian dollar, you could actually hold the short for a little bit longer. And we could see the recent consolidation come to an end, and the market could come under pressure with the Australian versus the US again. So really keep an eye out on that. and I'll talk a bit more in the technicals, and we'll look for some opportunities there. Once again, we've got the gross domestic product come out for Australia. I wouldn't be surprised if it is bad. It's going to be worse than last month. The consensus is it's going to be worse, but I wouldn't be surprised if it even just undershot that at 2.5%. So 2.6, 2.5 is expected. That will also weigh on the Australian economy. We also have the Bank of Canada's rate decision. As I mentioned, the consensus is it'll keep on hold, and that's because they've already indicated to the market that that's what they'll do. So that decision there, I don't think is going to have a massive impact on the CAD, but as the time gets closer, I'll be doing some more research and getting a better grip on market sentiment and what the market anticipates and how it could possibly react on different news outcomes. We also have the non-manufacturing PMI coming out, so that'll be important as well. The ADP employment change, now that's going to be important because that's going to give us an indication on the non-farm payrolls, which is going to come out on Friday. If we have a look at Thursday, we have the Bank of England's interest rate decision. Once again, it will be on hold. They've indicated that. Likewise with the ECB's rate decision. The asset purchases should remain the same. They're not going to raise yet, so everybody knows that the BoE is going to keep it on hold. But we're trying to find an indication on when they will raise rates. So that's the data that comes out, but then what's going to follow is other officials within the BoE coming out and making comments to the press, and then that will have an impact on the currency moves. So that's why I do keep an eye on Twitter. I do keep an eye on up-to-date live news, because then that gives me the information I need to understand why the price action is going the way it is. And if someone's come out and said something and the market's moving, I understand the reasons and what's behind it. The ECB monetary policy statement, that's going to be key. Everyone's going to be focused on that. Euro's still in focus, and we need to really look at what their monetary policy is going forward. Greece has had that band-aid, as I've mentioned, for 4 months. So we're really going to be looking at how all this turmoil has affected the euro economy and how quickly is it slipping, how bad is it getting. And hopefully this press conference here, I'll be watching it live, I stream it, and we'll go from there. Initial jobless claims, once again, that's an indicator for non-farm payroll, continuing jobless claims. All these add up to the formula which makes up the non-farm payroll. When it gets to non-farm payroll, I'll have a better idea after all this data comes out what the expectations will be, and on the basis of that, hopefully we'll be able to trade it and make some money. It is by far the most wildest economic announcement every single month, and I don't suggest any beginners get involved in it at all. Keep all your trades out of it. Likewise with the unemployment rate. It's actually expected to improve. Now, with the unemployment rate expected to improve, traders will be thinking about that all week. And it's the case of buy the rumour, sell the fact. So everyone will be pricing in like better than expected results coming out of the US all week, and the US dollar strength should continue. And it's only if the expectations aren't met that the market will then correct itself. So it's a bit of that situation at the moment. Also, trade balance is expected to improve. So US data is expected to improve, and then we just need to get a picture on how bad the rest of the world's data is going to be in comparison, and then we marry up the strong economies and the weak economies, chart them out, and try and find some trading opportunities. All right, I could go on all day about the fundamentals. It is a very busy week. So in the short term, let's get back to today. Let's have a look at the euro, what's coming out in the ISM numbers, and the key is tomorrow. Let's keep an eye on the RBA rate decision. If we do get a cut, the market will sell off an initial reaction, and depending on the statement, that reaction could continue through all week, especially if the US dollar strength story kicks in. All right, traders, until tomorrow, trade well, but make sure you catch the technical video, and we'll see if we can make some money at the start of this week.